Sí, por aquí, por aquí.
Cars about to set off into battle. This circuit, which is just over 4.5 kilometers in length, 16 corners, some fast bits, some tight bits, some slow sections as well, plus the chicane towards the end.
Hablando.
Muy buenas tardes, Cristian, buenas tardes, Maxi, buenas tardes sobre todo a todos los que nos vais a seguir durante esta jornada y este fin de semana del Racing Weekend, el último de la temporada. Desde luego se ha hecho esperar, este mes ha sido largo, pero ya estamos aquí y ya veis que estoy muy bien rodeada en esta parrilla de 50 coches, 50 Clios que nos van a dar muchísimo ambiente. Como tú bien decías, Cristian, que el último coche sale desde, ni lo vemos desde aquí, fíjate que estamos en una posición, como tú bien dices, privilegiada. Desde luego, sin duda, ambiente festivo y hay bastante gente para ser un sábado de lo que estamos acostumbrados, así que en ese sentido estamos muy contentos y sobre todo destacar el buen ambiente y el día que hace, porque no estamos acostumbrados, creo que de todos los Racing Weekend que hemos venido a Barcelona en esta siempre ha hecho mucho frío, nos ha llovido y este año ya lo estáis viendo, dan sol, hace calor, con camisa, no llevamos ni jersey, así que esperemos que sea un ambiente muy festivo como os estamos diciendo y nos vamos a salir ya de pista porque queda apenas un minuto para que tengamos que abandonar. Gracias.
Now, 3 race wins have gone his way this year. Very, very disappointed to miss out with the mechanical problem in the showdown of Clio Cup France at Paul Ricard a few weeks ago. I don't think he's going to win this either, which is a real shame because the multiple Peugeot and indeed 2019 Clio Cup Spain champion was the runner-up in Clio Cup Europe last year. Very, very quick driver is David Pouget as you look at the grid now being cleared. Alongside him, though, is a real man to watch because aboard number 191 is Luca Franca. First time out in Clio Cup Italy, and he's got a good karting pedigree. He was, for a time, the fastest in qualifying until David Pouget got a tow right at the very end. But Luca Franca, a man to watch in the MC Mototecnica entry. They'll get, of course, the formation lap to put some warmth into the Michelin tyres before we go racing. Third on the grid, number 2, Marc Guillot, who's already won this year's Eastern European Championship. He has been a runner-up in the Alpine Europa Cup, and he's 3 times Clio Cup France champion. And then next on the grid, lining up 4th, it is going to be Gabriele Torelli, who's got a good track record in one-make saloons. Remember, he is the championship leader of Clio Cup Italy, but he's also been very successful in the past in the Mini Championship in Italy as well. So the cars make their way now off the grid, and it is a very, very big grid indeed, on which 5th, and therefore taking pole position for Clio Cup Spain, is Alejandro Schimpf. just to confirm on that grid, David Pouget, Luca Franco, the front row, Marc Guillot, Gabriele Torelli, row 2, Alejandro Schimpf then, who came into Clio's last year on the third row with the reigning European champion and this year's French champion, Nicolas Milon, whose customer, the European Championship leader, Anthony Girardot, is next, ahead of then Alex Lausch on the grid. It's Jorge Palomeras and Alex Royo on the 5th row. The 6th row, Felici Gialmini and Alexandre Finkelstein, ahead of Mathieu Dallin-Prudence and Nico Aveia. Then Adrian Schimpf, whose twin brother Alejandro is further up the grid. Thomas Picard lines up on the outside of row 8, ahead of Fabien Julien, Nicolas Milkiovic. Then it's Jeremy Bordegaray and Julien Bazile. Pietro Bacchi is alongside Yusuf Pantila. There's Giacomo Trevi alongside Renault Steenmetz. Then it's Christian Ricciarani and Jacopo Jimenez, ahead of Guillaume Mayo a long way back on Franck Horn. Javier Ficundez is alongside Gianberto Coldani. Cedric Delcroix lines up on the 16th row with Luciano Gioia for company. A long way back on the 17th row is Jerzy Stinkovic with Stefan Polderman alongside, ahead of Damiano Buccetti, who had an off yesterday in free practice, and then Antoine Bordegaray, the Turkish driver. Emre Can Urmel is alongside Michele Locatelli, ahead of Michel Fay and Andrea Charicetti. Then there is Chen Han Lin, and on the outside of that row, Sandro Coutinho. Quinto Stefano is a long way back with Joaquin Rodriguez for company. And to complete the grid, Lydia Sempera, Daniele Guari and Gabriel Alonso, with the last place on this 48-spot grid being taken by Ilaria Brignotti, the Italian automotive journalist and TV presenter. She was, with respect, not that quick in qualifying. The stewards have allowed her into the race, but I suspect the pace of that car is not going to be one that makes fast progress. But up front, there's an absolute battle royal set between Pouget. Luca Franco doesn't have to think about points. He just wants to be a hero here. Marc Guillot, who's not had a win in the European Championship all season, who's got a title under his belt. Gabriele Torelli, who wants points to win the Italian Championship. Alejandro Schimpf, who can't do very much about winning the Spanish Championship, but he has had a racing win. He's had a Challengers Cup win, therefore, as well. And he would quite like another Clio Cup Spain win before the end of the season, before the end of the weekend. So, as I say, there's a lot to look forward to. Plus, Nicolas Milon starting 6th on the grid. He needs to win this race, and he also needs to make sure that he outscores Anthony Girardot comfortably in order to push this to the wire tomorrow. They come into this with 53 points between them, and there are 100 on offer. So it is absolutely essential that Milan forces this into the last round of the championship. David Pouget likewise, and you could argue he's in the box seat starting on pole position, but David Pouget's car on occasions has looked good at the start of the race and then faded. And perhaps proof of that is that the GPA Racing entry, the GPA Racing boss, has only taken 3 wins over the course of the European Championship season. So, yet again, the French Championship that he really does want to win went begging. Rest of the cars now making their way into position then. You'll see in a few moments the last couple of cars slot into place once they've come out of the chicane, but we're quite a long way off that, as 48 of them still trickle their way up towards the grid. There's the race in isolation to enjoy. There are all the championship machinations, 3 championships with, of course, an overall a Challengers Cup and a Gentleman Drivers segment to each. So much to then compute at the end of the race and see what it's done to confirm champions. We've got one more race to look forward to tomorrow, and that's when the abacus really does come into its own. Right, the last few cars head to the grid, including their treble 3, the Oregon Run press car of Ilaria Brignotti. When she stops in place, we'll be good to go. 25 minutes plus the regulation lap at the very end. David Pouget sits and waits on pole position, finishes listening to his latest podcast, or whatever you do when you wait for a grid of this enormity to file up. And the last car then on row 24 of Ilaria Brignotti gets there now. It is a bright and sunny and dry day. It's nice and mild. Perfect conditions to go racing. The penultimate race of Clio Cup Series for 2022 is about to get underway. 5 lights will go red. When the lights go out any second now, we go racing. 1 or 2 cars with a lot of wheel spin bogged down. Good getaway made by David Pouget then, and he gets the drop on everybody as they run down towards turn 1 on this opening lap of the race. The right, and then you go left and right and climb the hill around that looping turn 3 down towards the first sideways and to second place then. Strife, and there's another one being tagged sideways then as they make the run up now towards turn 4 for the first time. So it is David Pouget leading the race. For the first time. Anthony Girardet there looking at the blue and orange colours, trying to make progress. There's another one being run out wide as David Pouget does indeed lead from Marc Guillot. Already running third, Nicolas Milon in fourth. Hello, there's Nicolas Beyer, I think, coming across the grass, and there's big contact there. It was Nicolas Beyer. He comes across the grass, launched himself then into the side of another car. They just about survived all of that, amazingly. It's the rest back on. Normally, driving standards in Clio Cup series are praised. Right now, it's all in physicalness. It was Marc Guillot there, gets himself up onto the back of David Pouget. As the cars make the run then for the first time at turn 7, drop downhill. There's another picture point moving back down at turn 10. Right, cars, as you can see, in the gravel, early doors. Another one with big damage there. Limping on is Chapman Lin. And this for the race lead. David Pouget, it is just ahead, but we are going to go safety car at the end of the lap. And Guillot got in front just, I think, as the walls were there. So that may not stand. We'll have to wait and see. But it is Marc Guillot that will lead them up towards the end of the first lap. So, dramas then. Safety car deployed. All of this will count within the time allowed within the race. And those that we have lost, well, one of them, I rather fear, is the car of Antoine Bordegaray, because that has been badly delayed. The Oregon press car also of Ilaria Brignotti is a long way back, but it's off sector times. And the other one is one of the unique racing cars. No, the timing screen not making sense about who's missing because they're giving them sector times but not putting them on the overall screen. 211, I think, might be the other missing one of Nikola Milkovic. We'll try and unravel all in due course as the cars head across the timing line. But Nico Abea, as you look at the replay of all the strife kicking off at turn 4, Nico Abea, the Spanish championship leader, coming down the pit lane. So the damage that he has picked up, enough to bring him down the pit road and try and effect repairs. Quite why he was on the grass was harder to gauge. Whether he got squeezed there or he had a problem, but the net result was that he couldn't slow down the car in time, made contact with others as he cannoned off the circuit. So at the end of lap 1, Marc Guillot it is who leads the race. From in second place, David Pouget, then third, Gabriele Torelli, Nicolas Milon fourth, Alejandro Schill fifth, sixth, Anthony Girardet, and then after a bad first lap, Luca Franca from the front row of the grid is seventh, Alex Lausch is eighth, ninth is Tony Palameras, and then 10th, Alex Royo. Now those three, don't forget, are all fighting with Nico Abea, who is in the pits for honours in the Spanish Championship. And they've just been gifted an enormous haul of points here with Abea limping into the pit road. They came into this 23 points between Nico Abea and Alex Royo in Clio Cup Spain. And that margin can be whittled away hugely now, thanks to Nico Abea being in the pit road. So, as the cars accelerate along short straight out of turn 6 down to 7, and behind the safety car, the corner work is trying to remove the errant Clios from the gravel beds, and hopefully get things back underway pretty soon. This is coming out of turn 7 then. Cars make their way through that right-hander over the brow. You can't actually see the other side of that brow until you finish turning the corner, so it's a challenge right there, trying to pick up people that are in the gravel. 118 is Andrea Cecchietti, who is going no further, and Cecchietti with frontal damage, big frustration, so that's one of the cars out of the race. Cecchietti retirement then, and the other one in the background was Anthony Bordegaray, so that car going no further either, certainly Antoine Bordegaray I should say, in the gravel bed, and that needs to be retrieved as well. So, downside is that 25 minutes doesn't give you many racing laps anyway. It's all being eaten into by having the safety car on track. Good news is only 2 cars involved, shouldn't take that long to get them out of the way. Chen Han Lin's car has also been moved to place of safety. So hopefully, therefore, not that far off getting things back on the way. So the walking wounded have a battle on, trying to play catch up. And this a replay of Nico Abea on that first lap, possibly with a tag from behind, getting onto the grass, coming across the road, and making very solid contact there with the PMA Motorsport car. I think it was Felice Germini's entry. But Nico Abea, therefore, trying to get himself back into the race, so at least he can try and salvage some points out of all of this. Number 62 you're looking at is Gabriel Alonso from near the back of the queue. And so, right now, Nico Abea is under investigation for driving standards. Now, it might well be that he got a bash in the back rather than just losing it under braking, because with so many cars around you, contact is conceivable. And although I think Abea has gone back onto the circuit, that car's still looking rather slow, so trying to stay in the race. And the Oregon Press League car of Ilaria Brunotti has also retired. I can just see that making its way through the paddock rather than the pit lane, curiously, but that car also seemingly is a retirement. And as the cars turn through, and you look there at Justo Pantila, back down the pit lane, let me just tell you, has come Nico Abea. So the Spanish Championship leaders race is going from bad to worse. Clearly, the damage sustained is serious, and he's come back in to see whether anything can be done. But the danger is that he falls off the lead lap. Now, there's the clear-up operation. Car's trying to be hoiked out of the gravel swiftly so that we don't have too many laps lost behind the safety car, but I would think another lap at the very least, and so we're not going to get too much of that 25 minutes of pure racing in, which is good news in a sense for Anthony Gerardo, because he's already up into 6th and he's scoring points. He is behind Nicolas Milon, which is a bad news. But on the restart, there's always the possibility that Anthony Gerardo can make some more progress. So Nicolas Milon, who is his nearest rival, currently 4th. Anthony Gerardo currently in 6th place. And that would mean that there are 47 points between them going into tomorrow's race, with another 50, another 50 on offer. So it almost would secure it for Gerardo, but not quite. And of course, if Milon won and Gerardo didn't finish, it would be a different story altogether. 50 points for a win overall, but 25 within the classes, the Gentlemen Drivers and Challengers Cup. Right, still to be retrieved, sadly, is the car there of Andrea Giorgietti. And they're trying to drag it out of the gravel. Oh, and a red flag is now coming up on the timing screen. And a red flag is on the start line. And I think this is because the race director, Christian Voorman, has decided that the drivers are just losing too much time by being stuck behind the safety car like this, and it isn't fair to them. He'd rather stop it and go again. So it's going to be a red flagged race, and we await news as to the restart. So I think because it's taking so long to get 2 cars out of the gravel bed at the first corner, or the first sequence of corners, that's why the decision has been taken to not waste any more of the available time by going around behind the safety car, but stop and start again over a potentially reduced distance. So we shall, as I say, await confirmation of that. It's going to be a slightly depleted grid anyway, and we'll see in a moment whether the cars, yes, they are brought down the pit lane by the safety car. So, race stop. It is very, very rare that we get Clio Cup Series races stopped, because largely driving standards are good. But with 48 cars starting, I suspect contact at the first few corners inevitable. But it's not so much the damage, it's just the length that it's taken people to get cars out of the gravel trap that's the real frustration here. A finite number of people and recovery vehicles, and it all takes time. So there is that car now of Antoine Bourdegaray being retrieved. The Team Border Rally entered car. And once the road is clear, then a plan can be made for the resumption of the race. But you can see that there's no real urgency in removing Bourdegaray's car, possibly now, of course, because the race has been red flagged, rather than trying to get things done urgently behind the safety car. Thomas Piccard drives down the pit lane then. He was quite a long way back on the grid, the Czech driver, but he had a decent day yesterday, quickest in the first of the free practice sessions. Rest of the field all streams down the pit road, and so now we await for, as I say, confirmation of the restart. Thomas Piccard was in 11th place when he came down the pit road. So we got to 16 minutes and 18 seconds plus the regulation lap before the red flag came out. And as I say, we've lost from the race Antoine Bourdegaray, try again, Andrea Cherichetti, and also now treble 3 into the pits, which was the car of Ilaria Brunotti. So the other one of note, Nico Abaya, would he be able to get back into the race, or is he now, because he wasn't running at the time that the race was interrupted, out of the restart? All will be revealed. So the road is now just about clear. Drivers await in the pit lane. But with the race effectively suspended like this, the cars, depending on what the race director chooses to do, may be regridded and start again, or it may be that the cars are brought from the pit lane, the clock carries on ticking, safety car peels in at the end of a lap and we go racing. There's the car that's taking the time now to clear, that of Andrea Cherichetti. And so the race order at the stoppage was Marc Guillot ahead, yet to win in the championship this year, although he did come close at Paul Ricard, the Eastern European champion of this season. There, Fabien Julia sitting in the pit lane, the driver that's taken 8 out of 8 in the Clio Cup Spain Gentleman Drivers competition this year, so looking for a 100% record to be maintained over the course of the season. From where I'm standing watching all of this, overlooking the pit lane, there's one driver, Renault overalls on, absolutely sprinting down the pit lane to his car. Now I just wonder whether that's Nico Abaya, who has got the message from the team that you need to come back and have another go at this. One or two drivers being quite relaxed about all of this, including there, as you can see, another of the PMA Motorsport drivers, Damiano Puccetti, and an opportunity for one or two teams just to make sure that the cars are healthy, as Gianalberto Coldani's MC Mototecnica entry may have a problem. It's an idea to open the bonnet anyway, just to get some more cool air in as the cars are sitting in the pit lane waiting for news. So nothing will happen until the road is clear, that much we do know. Next car in the queue there, look, number 84, which is the Michele Locatelli Faro racing car out of the Italian Championship, the time attack competitor as well as Clio racer. Eager to get on with life, get back out racing. Next in the queue is one of the GM cars, Guillaume Mayo's team. That is the experienced Michel Fay, who has been a regular in Clio Cup Series, both in the French and the Europe divisions for a number of seasons now. Thumbs up, he's good to go again. And that is a car that I don't think we are going to see until tomorrow in any state. Looking a bit second-hand, Andrea Cherichietti's car, so that will be retrieved. Damage to the front, damage to the side, possibly damage to the suspension as well. So as soon as the car's off the track, the race direction team can confirm that now the race will resume at 15:21. and resume, not restart. In other words, we'll carry on where we left off. So I would imagine, therefore, that they'll be brought round behind the safety car and then as quickly as possible dispatched. It might be that one lap behind the safety car is enough to get the tyre temperatures back up. So there is the crumpled car of Andrea Cericietti, and a replay of the start of the race with that good getaway by David Pouget, but not a good start by Luca Franca, therefore falling back in the pack as the cars made that run down towards the first corner. He'd already been elbowed back. Then we had Gabriele Torelli getting all crossed up and going off the road, and that brought him through into third spot, and then it all kicked off behind as Chen Han Lin was delayed and others were involved in it. Chen Han Lin then also getting going late, and Nico Abea had that drama as well, cannoning off the slower cars around him and ending up with this driving standards investigation. So the yellow flag removed then at turn 3. That should suggest that we are not far off getting ready. Refueling is forbidden. Neither the race nor the timekeeping system will stop, but the time remaining will be stopped. So the timekeeping system continues, but the race time is paused. Cars may be worked on once they've stopped in the fast lane, but any such work must not impede the resumption of the race. And it's only team members that are allowed to go anywhere near the cars. So, as I say, this is a race suspension as such, not a stoppage, and therefore it will resume once the officials are happy. There'll be a 5-minute signal, we understand, from race control, then a 3, then a 1-minute board, and at the 3-minute mark, just like they would on the grid, everyone's got to have the wheels fitted, and a drive-through penalty will come if you do not have the wheels fitted at the 3-minute board. So the drivers await the resumption of the race. There in 1-1-1, Mathieu Lannon-Poudonx, another of the Milan Competition Pilote. Right, so the countdown continues. Trackside, we can hear all the klaxons are sounding, and drivers await the safety car to move away and bring them back onto the circuit and then to get the race back underway. But the reason for the stoppage, as I say, wasn't that there was a lot to clear up. It was just that it was taking a long time, and therefore the drivers would have run out of race time virtually if the safety car procedure had been continuing as it was. So there is the look onto that long pit straight, which seems to go on forever. The circuit is deceptive in that it's like many. You look at it on a map and you think it's flat and fiddly, but it isn't. It is a very hilly circuit. There is the Ayrton Senna fan, Javier Fiquendez, for Team VRT. We'll see from the crash helmet exactly how big a fan of the late great Brazilian he is. And Fiquendez awaits the signal to go back out on track and to get the car back, making progress up through the order. Javier Fiquendez is another experienced campaigner from Renault Clios, and drove in this championship last season. More and more of the drivers feeling quite relaxed, it seems, in the sunshine in the pit lane. There is just looking further down the order, Christian Ricciarini, and Ricciarini is another of the drivers registered for Clio Cup Italy, but the double champion from 2009-2016 knows exactly what he's doing in these cars and in one-mate racing. So Ricciarini one to watch, I think, when we get back up and running. Another car ready to go, that, as you can see, of Pietro Bacchi, who's been another Clio racer these last few seasons, another of these immaculate PMA motorsport cars. This championship that as I've been saying, comes to a close this weekend, but goes to some great venues. The championship started at Nogaro. It's been to Jarama, to Imola, to Manicourt, to Misano, to Valencia, then to Zandvoort, to the Hungaroring, to Mugello, to Hockenheim, the Red Bull Ring, Monza, Paul Ricard, and now Barcelona. So some excellent circuits, many a Grand Prix circuit on that list as well. Jerzy Spinkovic there, the Challengers Cup winner in Clio Cup France, ready to go back out into battle. And that car, another of the unique racing team entries, the Polish driver who does much of his racing in France. So down at turn 1, the scene is that of calm, I think, at the moment, ready to get things back underway. Yellow flags there by the marshals, ready for that safety car outlap. And I think cars are now making their way down the pit road. So just looking down the pit lane, yes, cars are making their way back out on track. So we are behind the safety car and the clock carries on ticking. So a safety car restart. And this again counts within the time. So hopefully, once everybody is on track, we can go racing at the end, but at the end of this lap. But when you've got 40 plus cars, even though we started with 48 and we've lost a number, there are still, as you look at the cars coming into turn 3, still some stationary in the pit lane, haven't got going yet. That gives you an idea of how long it's going to take just to get everybody out there. And if you do another safety car lap, we're going to end up with hardly any race time at all. So now the field released, everybody is on the move, even though some are still to emerge from the pit lane. I think the last one that's going to go is going to be Joaquin Rodrigo. Now, Nico Abea's car is shown as having done the same number of laps as everybody else, despite its 2 pit stops, but I don't know that that's rejoined. I think that is still in the pit lane, so Nico Abea may not be able to take the restart. Yes, he is shown as still in the pits, but that means that we have lost Chen Han-Lin, Antoine Borgaray, Andrea Cialicetti, and Ilaria Brugnotti then from the original 48 cars. So we have 14 minutes plus the regulation lap still on the clock. You can see the time ticking on down on the timing tower. Marc Guillot is the leader of the race, having started 3rd on the grid, so he's gained. David Pouget 2nd, he's dropped back. Gabriele Torelli 3rd, he's gained a place. Nicolas Milan 4th, he started 6th, he's gained a couple. Alejandro Schimpf 5th, and he started 5th, but he's still the leading driver out of the Spanish Championship, and he's also the leading Challengers Cup driver out right now, with Anthony Gerardo then just seeing the back of his car, the blue car with the orange diagonal on it. He is 6th, and the safety car will be in this lap, so we will go racing. And that's going to give us about, I would say, 11.5 minutes, 12 minutes of timed element before we get to the regulation lap at the end. So the safety car now accelerates away. Marc Guillot slows the pace a little bit, ready to try to get the drop on David Pouget. So the field comes now up around the sweep of turn 12, short straight to 13, drop down to 14, 15, the chicane. 16 brings you onto the pit straight, and this time they'll see a green flag, and we will be back racing then as the cars now wriggle their way into the chicane itself. There it is, that chicane, which of course initially was just a set of tyres put into slow Formula 1 cars down, but then made into a proper corner, if you like. And it is going to be Marc Guillot then, the race leader, with just over 12.5 minutes on the clock, who accelerates now up towards the green flag, goes racing with Pouget 2nd, and straight away Nicolas Milan on his toes to try to get up the inside line for 3rd as they head down towards turn 1. So Nicolas Milan making a move against Torelli, pulls out of the draft, goes to the inside line, and as they head down towards the corner, Nicolas Milan benefiting from the toe, and he's gone through on the inside line with Anthony Gerardo in that battle pack 3rd. And where is Gerardo? He is still in 6th as they come up towards turn 3 then, this being lap number 4 then. We are back racing once again, and the field, long field of cars streaming its way up towards turn 4 now as Anthony Gerardo tries to make progress on the inside line there. So number 5, Anthony Gerardo, fighting, as you see, with Alejandro Schimpf, and he's put a move on him, so another place gained by Gerardo. He's creeping his way forward, but up front, Marc Guillot is under huge attack right now from David Pouget, who is behind him and almost pushing him along as they drop down the hill now. Out of turn 5, and then there's that little kink at turn 6, set the car up for the 7-8 flick up the hill. Guillot from Pouget. These two trying to get away at the moment from Nicolas Milon. Milon in the next of the Castrol cars, and of course Guillot, same livery, same team. He's very much a loyal Milon Competition customer, is Marc Guillot, and accelerates now down towards turn 10, down this back straight, if you like, with Pouget coming out of the draft there, not benefiting from the toe all the way down the straight, thinking about a move on the inside line, but to no avail. Milon runs third, but as you can see, he's got them all stacked up behind him. Within 4th place, Gabriele Torelli, the leading Italian championship driver. Then 5th is Anthony Gerardo. And rounding out the top 6 is Alejandro Schimpf right now. So it's a pair, a trio, and then almost everybody else in a line as they come out of turn 13, drop down towards the chicane. And the race leader, Marc Guillot, not being able to escape, whereas Milon catching Pouget, but he's taking with him there Torelli and Gerardo. And Gerardo, remember, is another Milon Competition customer, so it's good for business if he wins the championship, that is for sure. But Nicolas Milon, the reigning champion, would like to win Clio Cup Europe himself. Leaders go through with just 0.292 of a second between Guillot and Pouget this time. Milon runs third, Torelli 4th, 5th is Gerardo, 6th now, recovering, is Luca Franca, 7th is Alejandro Schimpf, Alex Lausch is 8th, 9th is Jorge Palomeras, and 10th is Alex Royo. Those 4 all arguing over Clio Cup Spain honours as David Pouget takes the race lead coming out of turn 2. He was up the curb, but he's done it, so David Pouget goes through, takes over the race lead now, and Marc Guillot, Nicolas Milon, Anthony Gerardo, all in the same team. Are they going to work together to get Gerardo up the order? Well, in a sense, yes, they ought to. In another sense, no, because Milon wants to win the championship as well. And Gerardo is a customer, but when you go racing to a degree, it's every man for himself, especially if the boss can win the championship. So David Pouget leads the way, but now trying to make progress and pull a gap over Guillot is going to be really hard. Everybody else behind gets a tow, of course, and therefore can stay in touch. We've had dramas down at turn 2 there for Lydia Sempera, who gets back on the racetrack. Lydia Sempera then in the Team VRT car, delayed but still going. So Pouget now has to be really crafty as to how he breaks away from the opposition. Comes through turn 9 now. Drops down the hill, makes his run towards the hairpin with Guillot 2nd, Milon 3rd, 4th it is Gerardo, and then in 5th place as the cars break for the tight left, Gabriele Torelli. Luca Franca has dropped back on this lap behind Alejandro Schimpf, and David Pouget, the GPA racing boss, trying desperately to get away. But Guillot is staying with him, and so is Milon, and then it's Gerardo being sensible, thinking about points. Life's changed rather a lot for Anthony Gerardo. There is a baby on the way for him and his girlfriend. There's the dog at home. The one thing that's missing, the team reckon, is that championship winner's trophy, and it should come this weekend as long as he stays out of strife. And this year, it's been a completely different Anthony Gerardo. He's been a much tidier, much safer, much cleaner, more thinking, more complete driver, as Thomas Piccard there in the orange car goes right round the outside, coming onto the pit straight. Thomas Piccard tries to get himself up alongside and should be able just to nose through as they come over the timing line then. Thomas Piccard battling with Adrian Schimpf and puts that move on him as the leaders drop into turn 1. 8 minutes and a lap still to go. Pouget just ahead, but only just ahead. Guillot in 2nd place, and then 3rd, Nicolas Milon right there behind. Anthony Gerardo banking points. He's in 4th, but you can see the way now as there, Nico Abella, who is back in the race, still circulating but rather badly delayed, limping round for points. You can see the way that Pouget up front is struggling to get away from Guillot and Milon because they just sit in his wheel tracks and benefit from the slipstream. They get a tow, all important in qualifying, and it's why it's so hard here to make a break. 3 for the race lead now. Pouget up the curb onto 2 wheels. That unsettles him, forces him out wide. Guillot comes back at him. Makes the run on the inside line. Marc Guillot will go back through, and he does do. Marc Guillot retakes the lead then. So the French 3 drivers at the head of the field all arguing over the race lead, headed by Marc Guillot once again. And Marc Guillot, who's been successful in Clios, he's won a championship this year. He's won the French title 3 times to add to this year's Eastern European Series. He's been the runner-up in the Alpine European Cup. He's raced in the Ligier Sports Prototype European Series. But it seems that no matter what he does, he gets drawn back to Renault Clio racing, and you can understand why. Big dive there in the background as well as others accelerate through turn 10. So Marc Guillot it is that leads the way out now of turn 12 up at the top of the hill. It's another big climb to get to that part of the racetrack, and then now through 13, plunge down into the chicane. Bit of a roller coaster almost this, but the chicane is slow and it's tight. You can just about overtake there if your rival is really kind to you and gives you the racing room, but it's not the ideal place to try. Some do try it though. There, look, as you can see, and Alex Royo on his toes to try to make progress as the cars come through. Right up alongside him though on the outside line, Nikola Milkiovic as the field battles over the timing line once more. Royo on the inside line, Milkiovic on the outside as they break the beam now and go through with 6 more minutes to go. Side by side for the race lead. David Pouget on the outside line, can't get the job done at turn 1. And now look, it's 4 for the lead. They are all bunching up once again. Gerardo on the back of Milan, which is bad news for Nicolas because he knows that he's got to outscore Anthony Gerardo and by a number of places if he can, to keep alive the championship hopes going into tomorrow. The leaders up towards turn 4, and it's, what, 5 in a line now. Guillot, Pouget, Milan, Gerardo and Torelli. Gabriele Torelli doesn't have to race with them. He just needs to win the Italian element of the race. But Gabriele Torelli, as we've seen this year, very rapid driver indeed. So Guillot ahead of Pouget as they drop downhill. Anthony Gerardo here needs to pick his battles. One of them is with Milan, but he doesn't really have to race Torelli behind him because Torelli is not registered for points within the European Series. You can register for a maximum of 2 championships, whether it's, for example, the European and the French, European and the Eastern European, or you choose as you wish, but you can't register for all of them. And then if the driver is a very good one, like a Gerardo or a Milan, take points as a blanket across so many titles. About a quarter of a lap ahead of all of the leaders is Nico Abea, still battling on to the end. There, up at turn 12, is the leader. So you can see turning through Marc Guillot, fending off David Pouget. They've traded the lead between them. Anthony Gerardo still running in that fourth place. And he has done the fastest lap of the race thus far, Anthony Gerardo, and he wants to get more points. He wants to get past Nicolas Milan, but it's not going to be easy to do that as the rest of the field now dives down towards the chicane. Alex Royo goes through. Race leaders across the line, and Marc Guillot still ahead as you look there at Jusso Pantila running out a little bit wide coming out of the chicane on the back of Julien Bazire. So the leaders go through, and as they do so, the margin between the top 2 was 44 thousandths of a second, and David Pouget's got his nose in front and he retakes the lead around the outside going into turn 1. Very brave stuff indeed. David Pouget, the man on pole position, back into the lead of the race. But now on the outside line, Marc Guillot tries to get the undercut coming out of turn 3, but he couldn't quite level then as they make that run along the short straight. Go right in a moment. Behind them in 3rd place, Nicolas Milan. In 4th place, it is still Gerardo. So Anthony Gerardo right now running in 4th place, which would give him 643 points provisionally. Nicolas Milan for 3rd would be on 593, and that would be enough, we reckon, to give Gerardo the championship, bearing in mind that even if it were a tie-break, he would have more wins. So Anthony Gerardo now, being the thinking driver, as it were, doesn't have to push any harder, just has to sit there and bank the points. So it would be 50 points between them. He would win on a tie-break provisionally, subject to anything that's found post-race. But right now, look, Gerardo, to be fair to him, is lagging back, just not getting involved, not getting in strife, not putting himself at risk. So champion-elect Anthony Gerardo runs 4th. And that shows the level of domination, doesn't it? Against the likes of Pouget and Milan and Guillot, all champions in their own right, that you can win it with a race to spare. To the chicane, they will drop then, and the clock ticks on down. They're going to get 2 more laps out of this because the Clock will hit 0 on the next lap, and then there's going to be the regulation lap. So David Pouget it is who leads the way. But can he hang on in there for 2 more laps? So over the timing line, with 2 minutes on the clock, David Pouget goes through, and look, weaving from one side of the road to the other, trying to break the toe. The teams watch on. The really savvy teams will know exactly what their drivers are up to, of course, and the likes of David Pouget, Nicolas Milon, who run their own teams as well as Go Racing, absolute masters of the one-mate racing art. Now, Milon needs to gain another place, doesn't it? Because if he does, that would give him an extra 6 points, and that would push this to tomorrow. And right now, Milon is on the attack. Goes to the inside, or tried to, of Marc Guillot. So now, if the message has got through to Nicolas Milon, it's time to push. It might be a forlorn hope anyway, because Gerardo still would be looking strong going into tomorrow. But even so, Nicolas Milon does not want to give up without a fight, and so fight he must against his teammate. Those two identically coloured Castrol cars together then. 4th is Anthony Gerardo, and in turn he's getting away now from Gabriele Torelli, who is the leading Italian championship runner, and then 6th it is Alejandro Schimpf heading Clio Cup Spain, and also the leading Challengers Cup driver in the race, as the field now once more heads to the little flick at turns 7, 8, and then the climb up the hill. Guillot then, for the moment, keeping Milon at bay, and Anthony Gerardo coming back at the top 3. So Anthony Gerardo in this interrupted race on the verge of a championship, but now whether he wins it today or tomorrow rather depends on where Nicolas Milon finishes today, and that in turn means he's going to have to fight against Guillot. Down towards turn 10 they go. Guillot closing up onto the back of Pouget, which is good for Milon because it means that Guillot will be just slightly delayed. They climb up towards turns 11 and 12 now. The leaders absolutely nose to tail, but Nicolas Milon, oddly, does not seem to be able to get the pace then to suddenly catch back up onto the tail of Guillot's car. He had a go at the start of the lap, but he does now start to close a little bit as they drop down to the chicane, late on the brakes there. So Milon comes out of the chicane. Pouget up the curve on the outside of the corner, onto the pit straight, and there's going to be 1 more lap to go. There's also a driving standards flag out for Nikola Milkiovic for exceeding track limits as the leader goes through. David Pouget then 4 tenths ahead, and then Guillot to Milon, which is for 2nd and 3rd places, is just another 4 tenths as they go across the timing line. So very close indeed between the leading 3. Make that 4 because Gerardo is still there. And now a 5-second penalty being given to Alejandro Schimpf for disrespecting track limits. And that is significant because he is 6th. He is the leading driver out of Clio Cup Spain. He's the leading challenger. That could now go to his brother Adrian Schimpf, in fact. So we'll have to see where that drops him at the very end of the race. Right now, though, it is 4 for the race lead, and a small lock-up. Was that from David Pouget coming into turn 4, forcing him out ever so slightly wide. There is the penalised Alejandro Schimpf. He turns through in the Cotauto Motorsport car as the leaders drop down to turn 5, and side by side there, look, were Guillot and Milon. Was there a change between the two of them? They come back into view, all of which is enabling Pouget to get away. Gerardo now is in on the act as well. Look, he's up the inside to try to go 3rd, and he will go 3rd on the inside heading into turn 7. So brave stuff there from Anthony Gerardo. He has split the 2 Castrol twins, as it were, and all of a sudden David Pouget is out on his own. Guillot is in 2nd place, Gerardo is up to 3rd, and that absolutely now cements the championship for him, with Nicolas Milon down in 4th. Fair play to Gerardo. He's not just prepared to sit back, is he, and take the points. He's prepared to get stuck in, and even makes a move then to block Milon coming through turn 10. So Nicolas Milon looking as though the championship now is over. Anthony Gerardo is going to be well ahead now, something like 56 points ahead as they come up towards the completion of the lap, completion of the race. David Pouget is going to take a slightly Pyrrhic victory in as much as he will win the race, but he still can't do anything about a championship he longs to win. So it's all a bit provisional, but as they come up towards the checkered flag this time, David Pouget is going to win the penultimate race in Clio Cup Series from Marc Guillot, with Anthony Gerardo, the champion, in 3rd place provisionally. Nicolas Milon comes across the line to be 4th, ahead of Gabriele Torelli in 5th. 6th over the line, Alejandro Schimpf, but 6th will go to Luca Franca, 7th to Adrian Schimpf then. So he is the winning Challengers Cup driver, and also Adrian Schimpf takes a win in Clio Cup Spain. 8th then is Thomas Picard, 9th is Jordi Palomeras, and 10th Nikola Milkiovic. and Alejandro Schimpf drops down to 19th place after all of that. That is where the 5 seconds drops him to. But well done, David Pouget. A great drive by David, proving once again that he knows exactly how to win one-make races. Was able to use the speed of the car to put him into the lead of the race, then ended up dropping back a little bit, pushed on, and used all of his racecraft to very, very good effect indeed. And so David Pouget, the race winner. Second place at the end to Marc Guillot, and Anthony Gerardo taking third. The winning challenger, as I say, was Adrian Schimpf. You have to go a long way down the order to find Javier Cifuentes with his Ayrton Senna crash helmet as the winning gentleman driver as well. And that would mean that it's the first time a gentleman driver's victory in Clio Cup Spain has not gone to Fabien Julia, who finished only in 32nd place outright. So a long way down. That 100% record has come to an end. Nico Abea here will come through to score points in Clio Cup Spain. Not many, but finish he will, and therefore he stays just about in the fight going into tomorrow. So Nico Abea over the line and comes through. So he finishes finally in 43rd place. Now, the good news is that one of the cars that we lost on the restart was one of his rivals, Alex Lausch, who was a retirement. Now, Nico Abea being shown as not classified. He is 2 laps down, and therefore that has not done sufficient distance according to the live timing screen. So it therefore suggests, again, subject to confirmation, stewards may have to discuss this with the timing system, but it looks as though Nico Abea doesn't score because although he was circulating, he's not done enough distance to be classified. There's another 5-second penalty being offered, and it's to Nikola Milkiovic, again, for exceeding track limits. So as the cars make their way back down the pit lane, there is the overall race winner, David Pouget, Marc Guillot second, and in third place, it is the new champion, Anthony Gerardo. In the Challengers Cup, the winner, Adrian Schimpf from Jordi Palomares, and then Jerzy Spinkovic, who got into the top 10, and Jerzy Spinkovic started on the 17th row of the grid. So fair play, we rather overlooked that in the heat of the battle, but that was a great drive by Jerzy Spinkovic. The gentleman driver is won by Javier Cifuentes from Stefan Polderman, and then third, the gentleman, it is Luciano Gioia. I'll worry about the individual classes in the regions in a moment as you see David Pouget get out of the car. Very, very happy man indeed. So he is the winning European. In fact, the top 3 in the Europe Championship, the top 3 overall. As far as Italy is concerned, that was won by Gabriele Torelli from Luca Franca. And then the third of the Italian cars, it's going to take some working out, Pietro Bacchi, I think I'm right in saying, for Spain, as there Anthony Gerardo, the new champion, starts to celebrate. Clio Cup Spain won by Adrian Schimpf from Jordi Palomares in second and Alex Royo in third. David Pouget reflects then on another excellent race, another Clio race win. Another frustrated season in a sense, because again, in both championships he's given it his all, but the title doesn't go his way. But he's all smiles right now, far cry from when we last saw him at Paul Ricard, where the car retired early from the second race, and he lost the French championship to Nicolas Milan. Nicolas, who was fourth, of course, won't be in that Parc Fermé area, but you can imagine his mixed emotions. A customer wins the championship, but it's not him. So, félicitations to David Pouget. Strides around the car, and Marc Guillot, who he had that great battle with. Marc, perennially in the European Championship, seems to be the bridesmaid. He's always a front runner, but not quite able to score race wins. He did last year, hasn't this year, but tomorrow might change that. But in the Eastern European Championship, he has done a great job. It's a nice family affair as well, the Clio Cup Series. And although it's a championship that does demand a lot of travel, the rewards are good. And it's a happy band of travellers, as I say, that have gone across Europe this year. Many of the teams operating a number of cars, so that helps to reduce the cost a little bit on that economy of scale. David Pouget's car has the odd dent on it. It's been another tough season. And the GPA Racing boss, a very happy man indeed, as he secures a fourth win. David Pouget wins from Marc Guillot, with Anthony Gerardo in third place. Nicolas Melon fourth from Gabriele Torelli, and then Luca Franca sixth. Seventh, the winning Challengers Cup driver, Adrian Schimpf. He also wins Clio Cup Spain. Thomas Picard, eighth ahead of Jorge Palomeras, and then a brilliant drive by Jerzy Spinkovic into the top 10 from 33rd on the grid. So the podium awaits for Pouget, for Guillot, for Gerardo, for Schimpf, Palomeras and Spinkovic as the top three in the Challengers Cup. 11th overall, Alex Royo from Alexandre Finkelstein, then Giacomo Trebbi and Jeremy Bordegaray in the surviving Bordegaray car. Jusso Pantela was 15th ahead of Julien Bazire. Guillaume Mayo 17th from Nikola Milkiovic with a penalty. Then Alejandro Schimpf in 19th place, and 20th was Pietro Bacchi. And you see more of the gentleman drivers, Javier Fiquendez, Stefan Polderman, Luciano Gioia, and a long way back after an off, Lydia Simpera down in 40th position. So the rest of the field shown, but yes, confirmation there, Nico Abaya not classified. So he was still running at the end, but 2 laps down, meaning that he was not classified as a finisher. So the podium made ready. It's a great podium at Barcelona. It's the actual floor of it is shaped like the circuit, and the backdrop is a digital one, so you don't have to keep changing it for all the sponsors. You just load that up as a graphic, but it also acts as a giant TV screen for the fans in the grandstand, and then they can watch the action. So it's a very, very clever podium. That's a good idea. Let's have a look at some of the highlights of the race that were certainly lively, with this huge field streaming through on the opening couple of laps once we got the safety car back into the pit lane before that restart. Great battle for the race lead between Marc Guillot and David Pouget. 2 of them leaning on one another. David Pouget bouncing over the curb around the outside also to take the lead, and then lower down the order, Thomas Picard tried to move on the outside coming onto the pit straight. Anthony Gerardo in the mixed late race, but it was Marc Guillot that got himself back into the race lead. He and David Pouget with Nicolas Melon right there behind them, but Pouget was not to be denied, made another move around the outside at turn 1. And this time it worked, and he was able just to stay ahead. Anthony Gerardo taking the title, taking third, taking the fastest lap of the race as well. It looked at one point as though Gerardo would rather settle for 4th place, but how wrong we were, because Nicolas Melon was slightly delayed, and that brought Gerardo very much back into the mix. The cars closed, making that run down towards turn 6. Gerardo able to dive up the inside and go through, but as the Melon trio squabbled, it delayed them, and it gave David Pouget the chance to pull away. So now the podium is ready. The winning drivers are about to be called forward, and at the end of a very lively race indeed, the top 3 about to celebrate. So on to the 3rd step goes Anthony Gerardo. For the 2nd step, Marc Guillot. And then David Pouget for the top step, the overall podium. A delighted race winner, just to prove what a family affair it all is. The next generation of Clio racer there as well, and also for GPA Racing, Madame Pouget is allowed onto the podium to represent the winning team as well. So on a Spanish circuit, a very French feel. Perhaps you could argue a Clio Cup podium should be, as French drivers lock out the top 3.
So congratulations then to the
winning drivers. Poised below. Now the trophies to be presented. So Anthony Gerardo, the new champion, takes third place, and a very, very happy man he is. Then the Renault Motorsport boss, Tariq Ait Said, steps forward to hand over the trophies to the race winner, David Pouget, from BRM Chronographs, which is another of the championship partners, and the champion gets the BRM chronograph as well. And the winning team's trophy there also goes to GPA Racing, So a very impressive haul for David Pouget's squad, with, of course, honours not only in the race, but also the satisfaction of beating Milan customers for second and third places. Anthony Gerardo is a very happy man indeed. He wants to go and celebrate. We need him for a group photograph back on the podium. So he returns, and everybody poses, and now the last few photographs of race one of the weekend taken. Can Anthony Gerardo go out with a race win tomorrow? Well, don't put it past him. It's a standalone qualifying session. It just depends whether he celebrates tonight or tomorrow. But Anthony Gerardo then has done an excellent job as we look back at some of the best bits of the opening Clio Cup Series race of the weekend. Great fight between David Pouget and Marc Guillot, interrupted by this red flag early on, as back of cars had to be retrieved. Nico Abella, with a bit of help, forced off the road, cannoned into the traffic as he rejoined. The car limped on, but only as far as the pit lane, and then we had this fight at the resumption of the race between Guillot and Pouget, although Marc Guillot had just put himself ahead as the safety car scooped them all up. And then the red flag was shown because it was just taking too long to clear the circuit, so to give the drivers some representative mileage, so the race was interrupted. When we went back racing, it was Marc Guillot then who led them away, but then Pouget was on his toes, and he went all the way through. Couldn't quite do it, however, as the cars battled into turn one, but then he did make a move around the outside, and this time it came off for him. So David Pouget went ahead, only for Marc Guillot to fight back once again. And so Guillot it was that put himself into the lead with Pouget, then Milan, then Gerardo right up behind him as the cars scrapped their way around turn four. So great racing from Clio Cup Series. Well done to David Pouget. We'll see you for more of the same tomorrow in Barcelona.